Good day, Deep and Word family. Welcome to day 191 of our Bible study review. Today we are covering the book of Habakkuk, and there's only 3 chapters. Many Bible scholars believe that this was written right before the fall of the Assyrian Empire and right before the Babylonians would come and capture Judah. Let's open up with chapter 1, verse 1, and understand that this is a cry of Habakkuk to Yahuah as he is seeing this vision of the destruction coming to the southern region of Judah. And he's crying out, how could you let these things happen? How is this a good plan for your people? The message which the prophet Habakkuk saw. O Yahuah, till when shall I cry and you not hear? I cry to you, violence, and you do not save. Why do you show me wickedness and cause me to see perversity? For ruin and violence are before me, and contention arises. Therefore the Torah ceases, and right ruling never goes forth. For the wicked hymn of the righteous, so that right ruling comes out twisted. And now for Yahuah's response to Habakkuk. He says, look among the nations and see and be amazed. Be amazed, for a work is being done in your days, which you do not believe if it were told. So he's saying, I'm working all things together for good, even though you don't understand it at this moment. He says, see, I am raising up the Chaldeans, a bitter and hasty nation, who is going through the breadth of the earth to possess dwelling places that are not theirs. They are frightening and fearsome. Their right ruling and their exaltation proceed from themselves, right? So they make up their own laws of righteousness, much like people nowadays. All right. And it says in verse 8, their horses shall be swifter than leopards and more fierce than evening wolves. And their horsemen shall charge ahead, and their horsemen shall come from afar. They fly as the eagle, rushing to eat. All of them come for violence. The direction of their faces is like the east wind, and they gather captives like sand. Verse 10, and they scoff at kings, and princes are a laughing matter to them. They laugh at every stronghold, for they pile up the earth and seize it. Then they shall pass on as a wind, and transgress, and be guilty, and ascribe this power to his mighty one. So Yah is showing Habakkuk these visions of the Babylonian Empire coming to be the world power, right? At this time, Assyria is the world power, but Babylon is coming to conquer Assyria. And when they do, right, the strongholds of other empires won't mean a thing to the Babylonians. They will have a strong military force to come through and wreak havoc on all of the nations. And Yahuah is going to use Babylon to humble his own people. As we know, we have read that in the book of Daniel. Maybe you can recall that Belshazzar, right, the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar, he took the instruments that were used for worship in the temple of Yah. He took them out, right? The cups that were used for worship, and he gave honor to his mighty ones. And it was that night that his life was taken from him. But all of the pagan nations would ascribe the power that they have received to their gods or to their demons, as we know. And verse 12 picks up with Habakkuk's second complaint. And he says, are you not from everlasting, O Yahuah, my Elohim, my Holy One? You do not die. O Yahuah, have you appointed them for right ruling? O Rock, have you established them for reproof? Whose eyes are too clean to see evil? You are not able to look upon wickedness. So Habakkuk is like, are you using this unrighteous pagan nation to establish righteousness? Habakkuk does not understand the full picture. And he says, why do you look on those who act treacherously? Keep silent when the wicked devours one more righteous than he. He's like, they're not more righteous than your own people. I know your people have fallen away, but Babylonians are not more righteous than we are. Verse 14, and would you make men like fish of the sea, like creeping creatures that have no ruler over them? All of them have been pulled up with a hook, caught in his net, and gathered in his dragnet. Therefore he rejoices and exalts. So Habakkuk sees this vision of Nebuchadnezzar and all of the nations being captured by him. And yes, Nebuchadnezzar puffs himself up in pride. We have read that in the book of Daniel. Verse 16, therefore he offers to his net and burns incense to his dragnet, for by them is his portion fat, and his food is rich. Is he therefore to keep on emptying his net and slaying nations without sparing? Habakkuk is like, when is this going to stop? And how is this good for your people? How is this pagan nation going to teach your people a lesson? As we walk into chapter 2, Habakkuk is still complaining to Yah. He says, I stand at my watch and station myself on the watchtower and wait to see what he says to me and what to answer when I am reproved. And Yahuah answered me and said, write the vision and inscribe it on tablets so that he who reads it runs. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, and it speaks of the end, and it does not lie. If it lingers, wait for it shall certainly come. It shall not delay. And so Habakkuk is seeing this as the future Babylonian exile. For the Judeans, this is also pointing to the future of the times of the end. Verse 4, see, he whose being is not upright in him is puffed up. This is definitely Nebuchadnezzar, and it's also definitely the world leaders of this day. And he says, but the righteous ones live by his steadfastness. Now, your Bible may say, but the righteous shall live by faith. But what is faith? It is steadfast faithfulness in the covenant, right? In following the commands of the Father. And those who hold fast to the testimony of Yeshua, you have to have both in order to endure to the very end. Many people think that that's a Paul or a Shaul original, but it is not. He was speaking the same words as Habakkuk. Verse 5, and also, because wine betrays him, a man is proud, and he does not stay at home, because he enlarges his appetite as the grave, and he is like death, and is not satisfied, and gathers to himself all nations, and heaps up for himself all peoples. Verse 6, shall not all these lift up a proverb against him and a mocking riddle against him, saying, woe to him who increases what is not his. This is a word for these world leaders today. They are trying to increase what is not theirs. The earth and all that is in it belongs to Yahuah Elohim. That's the beauty of prophecy, is it can talk about something in the near future and it can also point to the very end. But let's keep reading. It says, till when is he to load on himself many pledges or many debts? It says, do not your creditors rise up suddenly, and those who make you tremble wake up, and you be plunder for them? Because you have plundered many nations, all the remnant of the people shall plunder you, because of men's blood and doing violence to the land, and to the city, and all who dwell in it. Woe to him who is getting evil gain for his house in order to put his nest on high, to escape the clutches of evil. You have counseled shame for your house, to cut off many peoples, and your being is sinning. Again, that's a word. That is a word for all of these wicked world leaders. Yes, all those secret societies who hide behind their philanthropy, right? Parading around like they're doing good when they're really planning evil for people. Their payday is coming. Verse 11, for a stone from the wall cries out, and a beam from the timbers answers it. Woe to him who builds a town by blood and establishes a city by unrighteousness. See, it is not from Yahuah of hosts that people labor only for fire, and nations weary themselves for nothing. For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge and the esteem of Yahuah, as the waters cover the sea. And so he's speaking of a future time when the glory of Yahuah will fill the earth, and those who have their faith in Messiah and keep the commandments of the Father will experience this. Verse 15, woe to him who gives drink to his neighbor, pouring out your wineskin, and also making him drunk in order to look on their nakedness. Verse 16, you shall be filled with shame instead of esteem. Drink, you too, and be exposed as uncircumcised. The cup of the right hand of Yahuah shall come around to you, and great shame upon your esteem. Right? So that's what he's talking about. He will make the evil rulers of the day drink the cup of his wrath, and they will be drunk. And he will take back what rightfully belongs to him, all of the earth and all that is in it, and most certainly his people. Verse 17, for the violence done to Lebanon is to overwhelm you, and the ravaging of beasts by which you made them afraid, because of men's blood, and the violence to the land, to the city, and all who dwell in it. Of what use shall a carved image be? For its maker has carved it, a molded image and teacher of falsehood. For the maker trusts what he has made to make dumb idols. Woe to him who says to wood, awake, to silent stone. Arise, it is a teacher? See, it is overlaid with gold and silver, and there is no spirit at all inside of it. Verse 20, but Yahuah is in his hekel, which is temple or sanctuary. Let all of the earth be silent before him. Right? Woe to him who looks to creation and not the creator. Man was bowing down to the works of his hand and then seeking counsel from wood. Like I said before, the modern day equivalent. Tarot cards, 8-ball, psychics, anything that is outside seeking the counsel of the Creator is an idol. And now chapter 3 is a prayer of Habakkuk. Although I'm not going to read through the entire thing, I will let you know which verses I'm going to cover. So let's start in verse 2. It says, O Yahuah, I have heard your report, and I was afraid. O Yahuah, renew your work in the midst of the years. Make it known in the midst of years. In wrath, remember compassion. And he says, God comes to Timon, and the Holy One from Mount Paran. Selah, his splendor shall cover the heavens, the Shamayim, and his praise shall fill the earth. I'm skipping down to verse 12, and it says, you step through the earth in rage. You thresh the Gentiles or the nations in wrath. You shall go forth to save your people, to save your anointed. You shall smite the head of the house of the wicked by laying bare from foundation to neck. Selah. You shall pierce with his own arrows the head of his leaders. They stormed along to scatter me, rejoicing as if to devour the poor in secret. Verse 15. You shall tread the sea with your horses, the foaming of many waters. I heard and my body trembled. My lips quivered at the sound. Rottenness came into my bones, and I trembled within myself, that I might rest for the day of distress, to come upon the people who would attack us. Though the fig tree does not blossom, and there is no fruit on the vine, the yield of the olive has failed, and the fields brought forth no food. The flock has been cut off from the fold, and there is no herd in the stalls, right? He's saying there is devastation in this vision. There is devastation before my eyes. And he says, yet, in verse 18, I will exalt Yahuah. I will rejoice in the Elohim of my deliverance. Yahuah, the Adon, is my strength, and he makes my feet like those of deer, and makes me walk on high places, to the chief singer with my stringed instruments. So all in all, Habakkuk does not understand the full plans of the Father. He doesn't understand how his people are going to be reproved by a pagan nation. But he says, nonetheless, I will sing praises. I will worship you regardless if I understand or not, right? The just shall live by faith, or steadfastness, regardless if you understand or not. Remember what the Father said back in chapter 2. If it lingers, wait for it, right? It seems like the coming of Messiah is taking so long. For those of us who are just done with Babylon, all we want is the Messiah. All we want is to walk into the millennial reign. And all we want is that joy and that peace and that wholeness, right? And he says, look, if it seems like it's lingering, it's not. He says, wait for it. Everything shall come to pass. Everything will be complete. All of the promises of the Father are yes and amen. So even though, much like Habakkuk, we see evil, wicked rulers having their way in the earth right now because they follow the prince of the air, wait, because your promise, your deliverance is coming. You shall be steadfast. You shall wait on your salvation. Our Messiah has sealed us with his blood. He has retained our spiritual reconciliation back to the Father. And now our minds are being renewed. We are being transformed into the image of Yeshua, right? The Christ, the Messiah. But when that trumpet blows, it will be the completion. Mind, body, and spirit all together. That's the salvation that we are waiting on. He is faithful and he does not delay. He's waiting for the fullness of the nations to come in the sheepfold. Deep in Word family, that's all that I have for you today. Until tomorrow, Yah bless.